The resort was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, the air thick with the scent of salt and jasmine. From my balcony, I watched as my brother, Arjun, and his new wife, Priya, strolled hand in hand toward their private villa. They looked every bit the fairy tale couple, his proud smile, her delicate laughter, but I knew better. I hadn't planned to be here. Officially, I was staying at the neighboring hotel for a spontaneous solo trip, but the truth slithered in the back of my mind. I wanted to see them. The invitation had been polite, perfunctory, asterisk, you're welcome to visit if you're in the area. Asterisk, as if I'd miss this. Inside my room, I poured a drink, the ice clinking like a countdown. 2 hours passed before my phone buzzed. Asterisk, hey, can you come over? Priya is tired, and I'm not feeling great. Asterisk, Arjun's message was typical. Even on his wedding night, he needed rescuing. Their villa was lush, dimly lit. Arjun answered the door, his tie loose, shadows under his eyes. Thanks for coming, he mumbled. Jet lag, I guess. Priya sat on the edge of the bed, still in her crimson reception sari, her posture tense. She offered a hesitant smile. Sorry to drag you here. I waved it off. Nonsense. What's family for? The irony tasted bitter. Arjun yawned, rubbing his temples. Mind if I crash for a bit? Priya wanted to change, but the lights are too bright. A beat of silence. Then, before I could second-guess myself, I moved to the wall switch. Let me help. The room plunged into darkness, save for the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains. Priya's sharp inhale was audible. Better? I asked, my voice low. Arjun groaned in relief. Perfect. You're a lifesaver. He staggered toward the adjoining room, leaving Priya and me in the thick, silent dark. She didn't speak. I could just make out the curve of her shoulder, the nervous tap of her fingers against the bedspread. This is wrong, I told myself. But then, so was the way my pulse jumped when she finally whispered, you didn't have to do that. The darkness between us felt alive, pulsing with every unspoken thought. Priya's perfume, something floral with a hint of spice, drifted through the air, mingling with the salt from the open balcony doors. I should have stepped back. Instead, I lingered near the bed, my fingers gripping the edge of the dresser. You should get some rest too, I said, too quietly. Priya shifted, the silk of her sari whispering against the sheets. I'm not tired. A lie. Her voice carried the weight of the day, the vows, the smiles, the exhaustion of performance. From the next room, Arjun's muffled snores filled the silence. The sound should have anchored me, but it only sharpened the tension. Priya exhaled, slow and deliberate. Why are you really here? The question hung between us, dangerous. I could have deflected, joked, pretended I didn't understand. But the darkness made honesty easier. Someone had to make sure he didn't fall asleep before the wedding night even started. A soft, humorless laugh escaped her. Mission accomplished. I stepped closer, drawn by something I couldn't name. The moonlight caught the curve of her collarbone, the gold bangles still stacked on her wrist. She hadn't even undressed. You deserve better, I said before I could stop myself. Priya went very still. Don't. But it was too late. The words were out, and with them, the truth I'd been avoiding. I'd watched them all day, Arjun's distracted glances at his phone, Priya's too bright smile when his attention wandered. She'd noticed. Of course she'd noticed. Her fingers twisted the edge of her sari. This isn't, I know. I cut her off, guilt sour in my throat. I shouldn't have said that. The admission hovered, fragile. Then, barely audible, it doesn't mean you're wrong. My breath caught. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Priya jerked back, her bangles chiming. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then, nothing. Just the distant crash of waves against the shore. Priya stood abruptly, putting space between us. You should go. I should have. But the way she said it, like a plea, not a command, rooted me in place. Priya, she turned her face away. Please. The word was a knife. I forced myself toward the door, hand pausing on the knob. Behind me, I heard the rustle of fabric, the shaky intake of breath. I left without looking back. Dawn bled into the sky as I paced my hotel room, the events of last night replaying in jagged fragments. Priya's voice, asterisk please. Asterisk, echoed in my skull, each repetition twisting the knife deeper. I should have left the resort. Instead, I found myself standing outside their villa again, drawn like a moth to a flame. The door swung open before I could knock. Priya stood there, still in last night's crumpled sari, her eyes rimmed red. She looked like she hadn't slept. Neither had I. You, she breathed, fingers tightening on the doorframe. Behind her, the villa was silent. Where's Arjun? Gone. The word landed between us like a stone. Early morning swim. He thinks. Her voice cracked. He thinks I had a migraine. The unspoken because of you hung in the salt-heavy air. I stepped inside without invitation. The bed was neatly made, untouched. My stomach clenched. Nothing happened last night. Priya barked a laugh, sharp and humorless. Are you trying to convince me or yourself? She moved to the balcony, bangles clinking like wind chimes in a storm. I followed, the rising sun painting her profile in gold. Up close, I could see the fine tremors in her hands. You were right, she said suddenly. About him. The confession punched through me. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'd wanted, what? To unsettle her? To prove something? Now the victory tasted like ash. Priya turned, her eyes glittering. Happy? No. The truth spilled out. I wanted you to be happy. Something fragile passed between us. Then her face shuddered. Don't. But it was too late. The distance between us evaporated as she stepped forward, her perfume enveloping me, jasmine and something darker, desperate. My hands found her waist, the silk of her sari slippery under my fingers. A door slammed somewhere downstairs. We sprang apart. Priya's chest heaved, her lips parted. I could still feel the ghost of her breath on my skin. Go, she whispered. Before footsteps on the stairs. I slipped out the balcony doors just as Arjun's voice called, Priya? You'll never believe the fish I saw. The last thing I saw was her hastily wiping her eyes, forcing a smile as she turned toward her husband. Breakfast was a minefield. Arjun chattered about the sunrise, the sea, the unbelievable tranquility of married life, while Priya stirred her tea with mechanical precision. Her silence screamed louder than his naivety. I stabbed at my omelette, the yolk bleeding across the plate. Coward, I thought, at him, at myself. Did you sleep okay? Arjun asked her, oblivious. Priya's spoon clinked against the porcelain. Fine. The lie hung there, rotting. I wanted to shake him. Asterisk look at her. Really look, asterisk, but he didn't. He never did. Later, I found Priya on the beach, her sari pooling around her like a wounded bird. She didn't turn as I approached, but her shoulders stiffened. Leaving tonight, she said flatly. The words knocked the breath from me. Why? A bitter laugh. You know why. The tide crept closer, erasing our footprints. I wanted to apologize, to explain, to beg her to stay. Instead, I said, he'll never understand what he lost. She finally looked at me, her eyes raw. And you'll never admit what you wanted. It wasn't desire in her voice, it was disgust. At me. At herself. Arjun found me packing. You're leaving too? Work emergency. The lie slid out smoothly, honed by years of practice. He clapped my shoulder, his grip warm, trusting. Thanks for everything, man. Seriously. The guilt was a live wire. Tell him, but then he grinned, that same careless smile he'd worn when he'd forgotten our mother's funeral, when he'd missed my graduation. the smile that always forgave itself. I zipped my bag. Take care of her. At the taxi stand, Priya stood alone, her suitcase small and defiant. We didn't speak. Didn't touch. But as the car pulled away, she glanced back, one fleeting moment where her mask slipped. Regret. Relief. Resignation. Or maybe I imagined it.